This is Paul Masvidal from Cynic, and you're watching GuitarMessenger.com.
The world element of music, how does that manifest itself in your guitar playing? Have you adapted a lot of this music with, Eastern scales and raga styles, or are you kind of just picking out the sounds across the fretboard for
Yeah,
its
I
own
think it's
aesthetic?
like I'm at the point now where I don't think in terms of theory anymore. I don't think in terms of scales. If you ask me, I could tell you what it is, but I'm really just trying to get a feeling. I'm trying to capture a space and whatever it takes to get there. If I have to do really unorthodox things, it's just about getting this energy out of the instrument and trying to kind of be more precise with that. And whatever, it's beyond intellect. I think, for me at least, it's very kind of messy and kind of raw and just it's childlike in a way. It really is. It's just kind of like you're playing until you find it, and then oh, there it is. But that's the creative process. At least for me, it is. It's a big mess, and then it kind of finds itself.
In your early days of playing the guitar, were you actively trying to learn that? Was there a moment when you were trying to learn like Indian scales on the guitar?
Oh yeah, I got really into that. I remember I had a book of like all these Indian scales, and I had a few moments. Definitely, I wanted to take. I think I took a few classes trying to learn a dilruba. It's like a kind of a miniature sitar that plays bowed, and I almost bought one and I didn't, but it's something I still would like to learn. So I'm definitely into all that stuff. I'd like to get more hip. I feel like I got late on Sean Lane. Like I found out more about him after he died, but he was doing some really cool stuff, very Indian-y, ethnic kind of. It never ends. This is like what's so incredible. It's like we're beginners for life because it's so dense. There's so much music to be learned. It's especially as a guitar player, it's just like lifetimes, until you really get this thing. So we're just kind of making our way, doing the best we can in the meantime.
Going back to your the Focus days, Cynic kind of grew up around this new wave of progressive death and thrash metal in the early '90s, and your adherence to mysticism and Eastern philosophy, as it came out in the lyrics and the more world-inflected solos, is in pretty stark contrast to a lot of bands that write songs about chainsaw dismemberment or pestilence. Do you feel that like put you as a black sheep among the metal community, or do you feel generally accepted? Do you feel like people understood that?
Back then, it was not cool at all. We were a bunch of dorks, and we were just. It wasn't cool. It was like, what the hell are these guys doing? Because I think at the time the metal scene was so myopic in terms of this extreme music that everyone was like into just being tough and brutal, and we were just like these geeks. We were just interested in jazz, and I mean we weren't even really listening to extreme metal. We just happened to play in some bands that played it, but I mean we were into like jazz and fusion back then even. So it's one of those funny things that I think eventually it caught on, and what happened was, I think what's happened is the death metal scene hit a brick wall, and a lot of those bands realized there was nowhere to go because they were just recycling the same sound, and they felt like their limitations became really apparent, and they realized that the only way to kind of make this stuff expand is to kind of get better at your instrument a little bit, and you're going to have more options in terms of over a process of making records. And so for us, it was obvious because we were musicians before we were metal guys, or we were just interested in learning about music, you know, and that was really our priority since we were really young. So, but yeah, it wasn't cool at all, you know, it wasn't. But people came around, and there was always a handful. I think college towns tend to be better for us back then. Uh, and then little by little, you know, we broke up, and then came back around, and there was a whole scene of bands singing about interesting things. And I always thought it was interesting. Like, I like the brutal bands that had a twist, like Carcass, you know, that would, like, you know, like, be all like medical doctors about it. You know, they're like totally into, like, they were nerdy about the gore. You know, if you're gonna do that, at least like have some intelligence behind it. I thought that was kind of cool, but I don't know. I just don't know that our anger, you know, our frustration that brought us into the metal scene, because there's obviously some pain there that made us connect with that kind of music. I think it got siphoned through a different channel in terms of how it got expressed. You know, because for me, writing about, you know, having the courage to love was much more brave than saying, you know, I'm gonna rip out your entrails and eat you. You know, that didn't feel as cool for some reason. But anyways, everyone's got their own thing, you know.
Do you feel like since you came back with Trace and Air, the environment is much more conducive and accepting of?
Oh yeah, it's come a long way.
Message?
Yeah, definitely.
How do you feel like the business? I know you just felt some frustration with the music business back in the early '90s. Are you finding it's easier to make the music you want to make and get it heard?
I think so. Like, I mean, we're at the point now where we don't care anymore, you know, what anybody thinks, and we're just serving a process and kind of just trying to be honest about it. And I feel like the closer I get to the truth of this process, the more people are going to resonate, because truth is universal. You know, there's not these different aspects. It's just one thing. So if you can just keep that real, you're going to be fine. And I think back then we were just being pulled in a lot of different directions, because the industry and our record company, everyone was like, what are you doing? You know, and you can't do this. You can't do that part. I remember that in the studio. What's going on there? Count it for me. Okay, I'll count it for you, you know. But no, it's yeah, we're in a much freer place in terms of, I think we've learned how to navigate better. I don't know if the industry's any different, but I'm just a bit older now, and I'm just not it doesn't get me. I'm not as I'm just not paying attention to it. I'm focusing on other things, you know. That's what it is. It's just, where is your attention going? And back then it felt like, whoa, this business stuff is too much. I just want to play my guitar. I mean, that was really what happened to us, right? I just want to play my guitar. I don't want to deal with this industry. You know, this is nonsense. And it still is nonsense. But, you know, now we laugh at the nonsense. You know, it's just a different gig, you know.
You hint on, like, the process of Cynic moving forward as this sort of search for truth. Do you feel like there's a lot of other artists going out there that are just searching for a lie, or is...
No, I don't really think of it in terms of what everyone else is doing, you know. I think that everyone's got their own process, you know, and if you want to sing about cutting people up, and that's beautiful, you know. I mean, everyone's got to do what they need to do.
Right.
I mean, I always feel like as long as you're not hurting anyone else in the process, then do whatever you need to do, you know. And then I think Emerson imprinted in this in me, like, you know, the great American transcendentalist, that, you know, the duty of the artist is to inspire other artists. And I always found that the artists that inspired me the most had a more unique voice, were more original, and had something to say. And so I always kind of wanted to be one of those guys, you know, like, who am I and what am I trying to say? And now what's so curious about this process is that it doesn't feel like you at all, you know. And then the closer you get to it, you realize it's like it has nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. You're just serving some process, you know, and you're just almost really trying to stay out of your own way as much as possible. That's what it feels like. So yeah, it's an amazing journey, really, you know. Pretty grateful to be on it.